Nash, the work over the past 12 months. So with that, I'll turn this over to Dr. Eric Simons.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you for the opportunity for visiting with you tonight. As Dr. Hackett said, we want to share with you some of the work that we've been doing over the last 12 months, but really we're going to talk about the next 3 to 5 years within the IT department and the ideas that the teams of people that we've been working with have come up with on where we're headed strategically as a technology department. So what you're going to see is the technology strategic plan. It does fall on the balanced scorecard this year as an item in finalizing and implementing the instructional technology strategic plan. So we're hoping to move forward with that process. This process started about 12 months ago. We developed a design team that was mainly built up of the academic team led by Dr. Hackett. Dr. White sat on that team as well. But we started with that group of people. We met on a monthly basis and talking about what do we want for our students in North Kansas City schools from a technology standpoint in the future. And as we move forward, we developed goals and strategies to go along with those goals. We expanded our committee to include principals and teachers along the way, had them review and provide feedback as well. In that process, we did take it to the IT Advisory Committee. This is a committee that you will see here in a minute that is made up of business people in the business industry, but are in the IT profession. And we'll talk about them here in a little bit. We did get guidance from both a couple of consultants that we worked with through McGladrey, as well as some guidance from Apple along the way. Over the course of time, in order to get our juices flowing, we did contract with Michelle Baldwin, who some of you may know from previous employment here in North Kansas City Schools. But she facilitated the process. And as always, we took our goals and strategies and made sure that they aligned with the strategic plan of the school district. And so what you're going to see is really kind of a mirrored process for what the district went through when they built the strategic plan for the district. We went through that same process to build one for the IT department. As I said, the design team is mainly made up of academic services from last year. We met on a monthly basis, and then we expanded that committee to include teachers that were recommended by Paul Guess, principals that were recommended by both Dr. Ulrich and Mr. Sutton, and we met with them. And then the IT Advisory Committee, as I said, is made up of business people from the IT world. We had people from UMB Bank, Ford, Olathe, K-12 ITC, Data Shack, North Kansas City Hospital, and all of those professionals are from the IT industry within their respective businesses. And so we had some great conversations with them around what processes and practices they employ within their businesses that we might be able to take advantage of in the education environment. And so as we go through this, you're going to see some of their work represented in the plan itself. So we came up with four goals along the way and strategies to go along with that. First goal was to develop and improve a core network infrastructure to be the cornerstone for delivering services to meet the evolving needs of North Kansas City schools. We felt that it was absolutely pertinent for us to build an infrastructure that will help support everything the teachers want to do in the classroom and everything the students want to do in the classroom and connect them to the world outside of the four walls that we have. But to do that, we've got to have that network infrastructure. Strategies to go along with this. The first one, of course, is analyzing financing. Working with Paul Harold in the finance office is looking at ways that we can make this happen, because in the IT world, nothing comes cheap. And so we have to look at what is available to us from financing options in order to make some of this other stuff happen. A perfect example of that is the second one, which is expanding the cabling in our buildings. We have 20 buildings that we would like to recable. To do that by itself is about $3 million, but due to the fact that we can get E-rate funding for that, it actually will only cost the district about $600,000 to do that. So looking at those options for us to be able to take advantage of some of that funding that's available, leasing options, those types of things are what we're going to be looking at. So as I said, some of these things that we go through, we've already kind of started in the process. The cabling restructuring is one that we have started the ball rolling with E-rate funding. I just got an email just about 30 seconds ago before I stood up that USAC, which is the governing body, has just started reviewing our funding requests. So hopefully we will find something out in the next month or so that we've been approved for that and can start that process moving forward. So. Our teacher devices are they're starting their 4th year, and we know that we need to refresh those. There's about 2,000 of those out there. That was on the list of things that the committee felt like we needed to address. With the approval of the Board of Education last November, we were able to refresh the high school devices and move those down to the elementaries and middle schools to give them some relief. But what that did was pose some additional problems for us, because now the student devices are newer than the teacher devices, and sometimes we run into communication problems when we're trying to airdrop things back and forth and from teachers to students. So that is on the list. The next one is one that we've talked about for quite a while in North Kansas City schools and haven't been able to grasp a hold of, but it is one that the committee felt like it was still on the agenda to accomplish, and that is work towards a one-to-one environment, some type of one-to-one environment, K-8. And so that is in there, and we're looking at about 15,000 devices for that. The next one on the list is around developing an intranet portal. This would be a one-stop shop for all employees and all staff members of the district, where they can go and get virtually everything that they need. They would go to the portal, they would log in, and they would have access to all the HR documents, all the finance documents, all the communications documents that they might need in any particular year, but it would be one place for them to go. So that one is actually also already in the works. We're working with our consultant, Nuvento, to start that process. And of course, if we are looking at the possibility of adding an additional 15,000 devices, we need some type of mobile device management that we would be able to, from an IT department, manage these devices, push apps to them, those types of things. So that made the list. The last one is developing an infrastructure refresh cycle. For those of you that were around 6 years ago when I came into the district, we did a audit of our infrastructure. And we came to the board, and luckily the board was generous enough to provide us about $3 million to update our infrastructure. What this particular refresh cycle would do is make it so that we wouldn't have to come back every 5-6 years and ask for $3 million again. So in working again with Paul Harrell and his department is developing a refresh cycle so that we can keep our infrastructure up to date without having to come back and ask for such a large amount of money every 5 or 6 years. So the last one is highlighted because that one specifically came from the IT Advisory Committee. As we had conversations with them and posed questions to them about some of the things that was top on their list to do, they really started talking to us about network security and data security, and because with all the breaches in Target and those types of things that make the news, that has become a huge focus for them in their environments. And so we felt that based on that conversation, it was important for us to start looking at that and making sure that the data that we have inside our network doesn't ever get outside of our network. And so that one will be another one that we will be working towards accomplishing to build that core infrastructure. So that is goal 1. As we move to goal 2.
Good evening. I'm going to talk to you about goal number 2. You will see much of it pertains to curriculum and professional development. As you see from the wording of the goal, learners will utilize critical thinking while collaborating to solve authentic, relevant problems that verify and add value to society. Some of the strategies that we've come up with to accomplish this goal would be first to further develop our technology integration models. You know that we have Vanguard teams currently at the middle school and high school levels. Our high school Vanguard teams could use a little revitalization. We also know that we need to expand to the elementary level, but again, dependent on what devices we end up using. Another item that we would like to do to accomplish the goal would be to explore some student publishing tools. I was at a professional development opportunity today with Chris Tavani and Sam Bennett, whom I've mentioned to you before, and they were prompting our teachers to say, what will you have your students create? What will they make for a real audience outside of our classroom? And again, identifying those publishing tools so that students are creating for that authentic purpose would be important. The third, identifying further faculty collaboration tools and better utilizing what we have in place is important as well. We have our curriculum that's board approved, housed in Blackboard currently. But Sean Nash created a site called the Incubator that functions much more like a social media network. And that's where teachers can go to really talk about what that implementation of the curriculum looks like. What worked, what didn't, what ideas do you have for me around this concept? We want to further expand the use of such a network so that collaboration around the curriculum can truly happen. Next, you remember back in the spring, I spoke to you about a research and development team. We talked about some action research that was being accomplished by our teachers. We called it the R&D team, and that team of teachers really explored how we can better make relevant, authentic learning happen in our classrooms. We want to expand on that small groups learning last year and take that further and also integrate elementary teachers into it as well. Expanding our business partnerships with CAPS and beyond. You know that we have an awful lot of opportunities for our students in particular to have externships with our business partners and internships as well. But we also want to make sure that our teachers have that opportunity. Many of our teachers have been in school their entire lives. They were successful in school. They understood the concepts pretty readily. And so what we'd love to do, and again promoting this relevant, authentic learning, is get our teachers out into the businesses with whom we partner and allow them to see how the concepts that they teach play out on a day-to-day basis. Then, consistent implementation of everything I've talked about, utilizing our performance-based teacher evaluation. We currently have a standard that addresses the use of technology, but again, as this instructional technology strategic plan is implemented, we might have to come back and redefine portions of that. What does that look like pertaining to the evaluation tool as we do expand in the K-12 system and expect a certain level of implementation? And then finally, from our IT advisory committee, we heard a lot about educating users on the security measures in place. Our business partners who were there that evening talked about not just explaining to students what all measures we have in place, but also working with our teachers so that everyone has that knowledge and can work together to make this the most effective system. Sean Nash is going to tell you now about Goal 3.
Hello. So if you read this one along, learners flourish in a boundless, technology-rich environment that increases achievement and prepares them for success beyond graduation. So you'll see a lot of things here that reference online learning and or blended learning. And taking a look at the first one, you'll see that expanding online course offerings at the high school level is one of those things in the goal. So, you know, our online program currently is eCampus, and within eCampus, we really serve right now 2 key populations, and we do a lot of really fantastic work with credit recovery, and we have a lot of students that maybe perhaps didn't have the best road through algebra the first time, and it allows them the opportunity to come back in another setting so that they can get caught up. The other sort of key population that we're currently serving at the high school level would be like AP. Students who say, I've got my daily schedule down, but I really can manage another course in addition to maybe free up some of my schedule during the school day. So really being strategic and purposeful about which courses we offer in a fully virtual environment, I think, is really key. Also to investigate offerings at middle school and elementary school. For example, emerging content such as computer programming and so forth. And we currently only have in eCampus 4 credit fully virtual courses. And we have a small population of 8th grade students now who are currently moving up and getting some credit along that way. So we're really looking at what can happen at the middle school and even elementary level for those students who want to learn something additional above and beyond maybe than what they're getting in regular school day. Next, you'll see strengthening teaching within an online environment. I think one of the really key elements that you hear throughout the plan, and not just goal 3, is that anytime you look at a strategic plan, it's got to include learning along the way, particularly if it's a 3 to 5 year plan. And when we're looking 3 to 5 years down the line in the area and the sector of technology, things change so rapidly that if you don't build in learning along the way, things just aren't going to work. And so, that third one I think is really key. As these things change and as online environments change over time, that does affect teaching and learning. And there's a statement that I really believe in when thinking about these scenarios, and that is that technology does not negate people or place, but it does change their definitions and their dynamics. And so I think it's really key to understand the fact that technology does change learning, but how it changes learning is largely up to us, and I think that's a key learning aspect to the plan. The next one is to expand wireless connectivity for students and the community, and that's obviously very important because if we're going to expand in any way in either fully virtual offerings or even blended learning offerings, it's really important that we have connectivity for all students on a level playing field. The next one you'll see, assist in implementing the media specialist strategic plan. When you stop and think about it, the vast majority of us sitting in this room today, when we found out new things growing up, it was through NBC, CBS, ABC. The world was vetted for us by and large. And so, if Walter Cronkite said it, you believe. And today, kids are growing up into a world that they are having to vet their information far more than we were. And we really want to equip them to do so. When you buy them devices in a one-to-one environment like that, you give them a window to the world. And that's an awesome thing. But the other side of the sword is you've got to be able to navigate that, negotiate that, so we want them to do that wisely. And then finally, you'll see that developing an education plan for parents as well is absolutely key. Anytime we have one element of the population of our community, and again, it's for the most part, our parents didn't grow up in a world with blended and or online learning. So understanding that going forward is really key. We've got to bring those folks into the fold with us and learn along with us along the way. So that's goal 3.
The fourth goal actually came to us from the Support Staff Leadership Institute that Dr. Clemens led last year. And they wanted to make sure that in the course of what we're doing, that we don't negate and forget about the classified employees within our district. So much focus is focused on the classroom and the teachers and the students in the classroom. They wanted to make sure that we didn't lose sight of the support that they need in their roles. And so we'll be looking at the resources needed for the classified staff as well. But one of the key things that they brought to us is the fact that they want us to definitely look at the fact that device allocation may not mean a one-size-fits-all for our support staff. If we have IAs that are working closely with teachers, they may need the same device that a teacher has, to where our admin assistants may need a different device. They may need a mobile device in this particular day and age now. And so they want us to make sure that we look at those roles and responsibilities that they have and assign devices by their responsibilities that they have. The next one is making sure that we look at communication tools that help enhance productivity. How do we make sure that we're using the right tools to get communication out? And maybe email's not it, but what communication tools are out there nowadays to help us improve our own productivity within our environment? And of course, if we're looking at adding devices, is making sure we have a maintenance and management system that will help us in those upgrades, et cetera. The last one, as Rochelle kind of mentioned through the PBTE, we want to make sure that we have consistent implementation on the classified staff as well. So we have to invest in the professional development of our classified staff so that we make sure that they can utilize the equipment that is available to them. And then again, from the IT advisory committee, one of the things they talked about is educating the end users and making sure they know what their role is when it comes to data security. You get the email from abroad saying, we'll transfer $100 million to your account, and educating people that, okay, that's not a real person on the other end, they're not asking for that, and that most of the time your bank's not going to contact you through email, those types of things. So don't click on those links and enter your usernames and passwords. So we had a long conversation with the IT advisory committee about educating those end users on their responsibilities. So those are the 4 goals that we developed over the course of about a year. What you have in front of you is this particular infographic, which is shows the 4 goals. But I think in particular what it really shows is that goals 2, 3, and 4 are very, very dependent on goal 1. We have to have that core infrastructure in order to be able to accomplish some of that other, the other things down below that we want to accomplish. So that's why it's kind of up at the top and kind of feeds into the others. So with that, I will open it up to any questions or comments that you may have. Questions?
I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. It's very important to me. I think vital that we do this, have the best technology for our students, and you look at employers, new jobs, it's something that needs to be used, and also in just expressing yourself and contributing to society. And so I think it's just excellent, and it's certainly something I look forward to supporting going forward. I also appreciate your focus on, like you mentioned there, the security piece. Just like you said, the incidents that we've had and the attention from local law enforcement and even the attention from, recently I've read in the paper, even the Missouri auditor with schools. So I just wanted to commend you and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Just a couple of brief comments. I was kind of interested where you're talking about updating the cabling in the schools. We started with cabling, then we went to no cabling, and now we're going back toward cabling.
Well, there has to be a little bit of cabling in there for those access points. We are in the process of reducing the amount of cabling, very, very much so. If you remember, when we built Staley High School, we put about 12 drops in every single classroom because we didn't know where the teacher wanted their computers on which wall. What I would say is with this new cabling plan, we put 3 drops in every classroom, and 2 of them are in the ceiling for the access point and the projector. There's only 1 on the wall anymore, and because everything is wireless. And so we have reduced that considerably, but that also allows us to reduce the number of switches that we have to manage. We currently manage over 1,200 switches within our district, and this plan will allow us to reduce that down to about 200. 200 district-wide.
I like Rochelle's comment about collaboration around the curriculum. I mean, go for it. I'm a believer. We need to do it. I don't know anything we can do to drive that farther and faster. I'm going to be excited about the fact that I think we've got 1,500 professionals out there doing amazing things in classrooms, and we might as well steal ideas from our colleagues. I view that as praise, not theft. So how we can do to get that swapped around, how we can do that and advance. The more we can do around those and what we can do to support the teachers in doing it, help them create an environment where that's just the way we do things. I think I've always been, I'm getting more fascinated about the fact that teachers tend to be isolated in an environment, in a classroom or wherever. And they need the stimulus, they've got something to share with their colleagues, and what we can do to support that, encourage that, all of that, I think is just wins for our kids and really goes to professional development and I want to say professional satisfaction in many ways. And so I'm delighted to see that in there and mention it. It's great. And the more of that we've got, the better off we are. The other thing I would just comment on is the online experience. And I know that's moving forward at a measured pace, an appropriate pace. I'm not concerned about that. One of the things though that I wonder about, you know, is when you take what we're doing with online and what that's doing, when you look at some level at what we're doing with CAPS, when you look at what we're doing with the Innovation Center, when we start looking at all of this, I wonder if it means that there's an opportunity for us to go back and perhaps relook at our facility plan. In other words, we made an assumption, basically, when we put that facility plan together, it was driven off of a standard classroom, a teacher, 25 students, whatever, sitting in a classroom. Well, as we're starting to drive with virtual learning, as we're starting to drive with off-site learning with the CAPS program and things like that, I hope as we get to December and start listening to what RSP says, that at somewhere in there, we need to think what that means about how many classrooms we need, where we're going. I know it's not helping Brad's business much if we don't build classrooms, but I'm willing to risk that. But I wonder if there's something, if we need to just rethink what the facility requirements are, and how much can we do virtually and how much can we do other ways. So I just would ask that thought process go in with our RSP discussions and our facility planning. I don't know, at this point it's a concept. I don't know exactly what it means. But as I listen to what you're talking about and what your colleagues have talked about, we have to be reducing in there somewhere the need for classrooms. Now, I'm not trying to say we're going to go crazy and start eliminating schools. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, what do we do? What does it really mean for what we have to do with capital investment? I don't expect an answer right now. We have to now. But I throw that in there as we go through the year and start doing some of the planning and look at the interplay between some of our different capital designs.
Mr. Stone?
I do, yeah. You want me to go first? 'Cause
I
you've
have,
got
I have
like
a
3
video,
pages.
I have a video response.
No.
It's 18 minutes, so
Okay,
yeah.
no problem. Yes, I appreciate all the hard work and the action presented. I was just curious if you could maybe explain a little bit more how Apple computers, which have a premium price over a regular PC, how we're using the Apple computer above and beyond a generic PC. So maybe not today, but it'd be interesting to see, what applications we're using to, instead of just connecting into the internet, which you can do on a PC, what is the Apple technology driving? So is that something you feel like you could answer today or not?
I would probably come back to you with an answer on that. What I would say is just based on this plan, there is no decision about what device we might be looking at in the future. That is still up for grabs. That is still a discussion that will happen as we move down the road. So just because that is the device of choice at the high schools right now does not mean that will be the device of choice in the future.
But it is now, so how are we differentiating teaching and learning with the Apple technology?
Absolutely.
Second is the additional graduation requirement we have now of one online learning, or is it the class of 2019 that goes into effect?
Yes.
So are we adding any additional classes for that, or how's that going? Because those kids are now freshmen, right, in high school? So,
They are, and Rochelle, you may want to speak to that particular class each student takes.
Personal finance meets that requirement for right now, but we do hope to have some expansion of that where it could look differently. We could, again, expand on the goal that Sean mentioned to you and provide you with.
all right, and then, with all this technology, is there any way we can implement using our technology on snow days so that we possibly don't have to have a down day on a snow day? I know kids like snow days, but possibly just, you know, we have the technology. I think there is a school in our area, St. Therese, that uses their technology at home and on snow days. So I was just curious if we've considered that at all.
Until Desi gives us permission to do that, that's something we wouldn't be able to count as an attendance day.
Okay. But with the ATID classes, I'm sure there's something that can be done for those students so that they don't, you know, because there's a couple of years where we had a whole week off for snow. So that's a huge hit for the very accelerated classrooms.
I venture to guess that that would also have to be a conversation through TTTN and all of that as well, so.
Well, it's something to put in our thinking caps.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That's all. Thank you.
You bet.
She's still thinking. Great report, nice work getting everybody together and a good variety of people too, which is so nice to see. I'm going to follow Dr. Ward on saying I think the professional development be interesting to see. My guess is if you break it down in age, those that are 40 or 45 probably use less technology in their teaching and instructing than those in their 20s and 30s coming in. So it might be interesting, and maybe even one of the superintendent leadership programs, they might look at how much there is learning being done through that and how you might modify and make that so it's more comfortable for the people that didn't grow up with the technology growing up. It will eventually phase itself out because all these new kids coming in that graduate and they were given a Apple phone when they were born, but that's not. But I think it might be just interesting to see if you could somehow engage the older teachers coming from the older people who are here. But and I just want to say you are wrong, because I just sent another $250 and I'm going to get 10 million rubles tomorrow. It's coming. Thanks.
I'll go ahead and make a quick comment and then turn it over to Ms. Stone. First, thank you, Dr. Ward, for being part of that committee and representing the board. I remember a call that I got, again, commenting off of your comment you made, a call from Dr. Clemens when they were renovating Penn Oaks, commenting about the local utility and their use of cabling in the building and how much they pulled out of that building. So I appreciate that comment because it is true. And then to Victor's point, education about security on the network is really key. And sometimes I think my delete finger, I love my delete finger, is going to get worn out because we have posters all over that says, when in doubt, delete. And so I think that education is really key to keeping all of our student data and district records. So I applaud that in all four of the different strategies. So with that, Mr. Stone.
I put together a video in the last 5 minutes. Jay is going to be so glad he missed tonight's meeting. I've been wanting to show this for a long time and talked to key administrators, and the suggestion was tonight would be the night. So let me first say, the video is about technology in general. It's not my response to this report. I'll give my response to that after the video. But the lady you're about to hear, Dr. Sherry Turkle, psychologist around technology, either Harvard or MIT, I can't remember. But this is a TED Talk, and I've cut off about a minute of it, so it's not 19-something, it's 18-something minutes. I think it's worthwhile. It's my best guess. It's something worth hearing. So.